Hello, welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and if you're like me and you collected Beanie Babies when you were younger, then welcome to the video, fellow youths. Just saying that makes me feel incredibly old, and you may have known that Beanie Babies were a massive craze back in the day. However, you may not have known how big of a market Beanie Babies were. Researching this topic has certainly dug up a lot of information about Beanie Babies, which has certainly changed my opinion on the entire Beanie Baby brand. And now that I know, I'm also going to ruin that image for you as well. So for anyone that doesn't know or wasn't a 90s kid, Beanie Babies was a line of toys created by the TY company in the 1990s throughout till this very day. What made Beanie Babies unique was, at the time, conventional toys were sold filled with fluff, and they were rammed to the full, meaning that they were really rigid. However, Beanie Babies were filled with beans, but they weren't filled to the brim, meaning that the toys had a kind of loose, saggy feel to them, which meant that it was very easy to move the various limbs and body parts of the Beanie Baby. So if you're a kid playing with it, it was the perfect toy to have. And I should know, because I collected loads of them. And I'm pretty sure back home, I've still got a bunch, so if I remember, I might get one for a future video, and who knows? Don't be indifferent about wanting to see my Beanie Babies. Heck, I want to see my Beanie Babies, so maybe in the future. At the time of their release, Beanie Babies were quite popular, although they weren't the smash hit success they were until a little bit later down the line. And being popular amongst both children and adults, they had a very wide audience to work with here. Most toys released on the market have a limited life cycle. They are normally manufactured and sold in time for the holiday rush, and children get their new toys, they'll use them for a little bit, and then chuck them to one side and dispose of them, ready for the next holiday season. And the cycle goes on and on and on. But somehow, Beanie Babies managed to break that mold and became wildly popular throughout the entire year. But how did they do that? Well, this is something I'll be going into more detail with, but before we do, I think that we need to go into a bit of a history lesson with the creator of Beanie Babies, and effectively the creator of the TY company. Every Beanie Baby released has the red heart TY logo as a tag attached to the Beanie Baby itself, and that's not only necessary for distinguishing a Beanie Baby from any other toy, but it's important because TY stands for T.Y. Warner, and that is the man who created Beanie Babies. Interestingly, T.Y. Warner started his career as an actor, but soon afterwards transitioned to work for his father's toy making company, and there he learnt a lot about how toys were made and what was involved in the process. By being there, he eventually managed to work into a toy production company and was even given the opportunity to design his own toys. However, the slight problem with this was not only was he working for this toy production company, but he decided to try and sell his own line of toys on the side, and as you can imagine, they weren't too happy with this, more competition and him probably not putting all his time and effort into working for them, so they promptly fired his ass, and he was out of the door and looking for a new job. The next few years clearly seemed like a bit of a journey for him because he decided to leave America and go to Italy on a sabbatical for 3 years, returning to America 3 years later in 1986 to mortgage his house and put all of his investments and savings into founding the T.Y. Warner Company, otherwise known as TY Inc. This was an incredibly bold move, mainly because of the fact that with his Beanie Babies he started selling, he didn't really sell that many, and things weren't going well. However, it quickly became clear that he was a very meticulous person and would have oversight over many aspects of the manufacture and production of the Beanie Baby products to make sure they were to his liking and his standards, nothing less than perfection. Most other companies that were selling a product would normally just hire a third-party team to do all the photography work for them. However, like I said, T.Y. Warner was very particular with how he liked things done, so it was even reported that he would spend hours posing the Beanie Babies ready for the photo shoots. He wanted to make sure that it was absolutely perfect. Which, to be perfectly honest, I imagine a lot of people will think that's a little bit over the top. However, I kind of have to give the guy credit because if it's your business and this is your livelihood on the line, you're going to want to make sure that everything is as good as it can be. And hey, even if that means spending a few hours in the studio to get your photo shoots just right, then why not? Sometimes I really do wish that I shared the same work ethic as this guy did, because Brain Spill is certainly not like that. Not in the slightest. So, like I said, they weren't selling amazingly well to begin with, but things would very soon take a turn for the better, as people started to recognise when these toys were on the shelves that Beanie Babies stood out not only to their unique design, but also the fact that they were competitively priced, and because of the fact that they had the half-filled beans, they were very, very different to every other toy in the market, meaning that they instantly became a hit. But this wasn't as big or as popular as Beanie Babies would get. So what happened between this point and becoming the absolutely monumental mega success that it did become? Well, it all came down to a single decision with a blue elephant. I just want you to take a minute to have a look at this sweet, innocent elephant. His name is Peanut, and he looks really cute. However, what you might not expect about this elephant is that he would indirectly change the entire market forever and, by extension, completely financially ruin a family. Now, to be honest, I am jumping ahead of myself a little bit here, but just bear this in mind that this is, of course, not the face of an innocent elephant, but the face of capitalist corporate greed and also matrimonial destruction. Back in the early 90s, this toy sold for about $5, so it really wasn't anything to call home about. However, T.Y. Warner made a decision on the colour of the actual elephant, deciding that it, for some reason, needed to be a baby blue colour rather than the much darker blue you see here. Now, the reason he did this, nobody's really too sure. However, this meant that there was now going to be a scarcity of the blue elephant, and every other make of this elephant going forward was going to be of the baby sky blue colour, meaning that this rare blue colour was now a collector's item. And as a result of this, I don't think you need an economics degree to realise what happened next. Supply and demand. The price absolutely skyrocketed. So, T.Y. Warner, with either a complete stroke of economic brilliance, or just because of the fact that he was an absolute perfectionist, had managed to unlock the true potential of Beanie Babies, and by calling them a retired item rather than a discontinued item, meant that there wasn't the negative connotation of there being a reduced value in the good, meaning that people thought it was just more of a rarity, and therefore upping the market value of the item. One decision, one elephant, was all that was needed for Beanie Babies to be the global monumental craze that it became. So yeah, when you were buying Beanie Babies by the barrel load, you've got this guy to thank. Or the people selling them on eBay, but either or. Seeing the success of Peanut the elephant, the company decided to make this a more company-wide policy, and decided that scarce Beanie Babies was going to be a new business model. What they decided to do was, whenever they released a new Beanie Baby, only release it for a limited run, meaning that they only made so many, they only sold it for a certain period of time, or sometimes they would even sell it at a specific retailer, meaning that the scarcity and the hype around getting your Beanie Babies just grew and grew and grew. Everybody you knew were getting Beanie Babies, and if you didn't have one, you weren't cool. I mean, to be honest, if you don't have a Beanie Baby today, then you're probably still uncool, but back then, it meant something. Knowing all this, you're probably not that surprised that it was mainly adults who were buying Beanie Babies rather than children, and many people even saw them as a potential investment opportunity, thinking that if they bought the toys and they were taken off the market and retired, that maybe in the future they'd be worth a lot of money and they could sell them on for big profits. Who needs a stock market when you've got Beanie Babies? It was very common practice for people to buy Beanie Babies and hold on to them for them to be taken off the market, and once they had done, they would then go and sell them on secondary selling websites such as eBay, which completely accelerated the market, and people would go on and sell them for hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is crazy, and people actually bought them, which, I mean, it just goes to show how popular and how much people thought they were going to be worth in the future to actually invest in Beanie Babies. Now, most people would have stocks or property or shares or, anything like that. But having a portfolio of Beanie Babies could have very well have been a moneymaker in the future, and people were banking on that. Some more than others. And the reason I say that is because one family in particular decided to basically spend their life savings on Beanie Babies. Like anything in life, if you're going to invest in something, you want to make sure that it's going to hold its value, and if you plunge hundreds of thousands of dollars into something, you want to make sure that you're going to get a return on it. And some people thought that Beanie Babies genuinely was going to be that. So I've been going on about the money-making potential of Beanie Babies for some time. So what happened? Did people get rich and successful from this? Well, as this was a very popular business model, the TY company were making limited runs more and more and more, which people eventually caught on to the fact that this was what they were doing, and if every toy was a limited run, then nothing would be scarce, and really it was all a little bit of a game. People over time would slowly but surely come to realise that the Beanie Babies they'd got not only probably weren't real investments, but probably wouldn't hold their value. And as interest began to dwindle, so did the sales for Beanie Babies. The slow decline in sales was really creeping up on the TY company, and coming up to the new millennium, their days were numbered because the jig was up. So they decided to take an unprecedented step to try and save sales for the company. What they decided to do, instead of having limited runs of certain toys and retiring certain ones, they decided to retire every single toy they had. Yep, they decided to retire their entire range of Beanie Babies, effectively to start anew, to see if they could revitalize the company, try and start afresh. However, this was really the final nail in the coffin, and by doing this, come the new year, with every toy discontinued effectively, interest in Beanie Babies died in the year 2000. And for people like me that actually really liked Beanie Babies at the time, this was a sad moment because it was truly the end of an era. And although it's sad, it's not the end of the world, because for most of us, we didn't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things. We bought a few here and there and we enjoyed them while we had them, but now they're just there gathering dust. However, that can't be the same said for everyone, because like I said earlier, if you're a family that decided to put your life savings into these things, only to find out overnight that they're worthless, yeah, you're going to be taking a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror after that. So you may be asking, what led the family to this decision? Well, back in 1993, when the Beanie Baby fad truly kicked off, the Robinsons family decided it would be a grand idea to invest in Beanie Babies, with the intention of them being worth a lot of money in the future, and that hopefully they'd be able to put their 5 children through college, which at the time sounded like a perfect idea. No point investing anything else. Clearly, Beanie Babies were the future. They were the gold standard. If countries didn't have gold, they would have Beanie Babies. That's how it works, right? At the time, their children were all about 3 or 4 years old, meaning that in the future, hopefully when the Beanie Babies were worth more money, that's when they could cash in and hopefully send their kids to college. Things, well, as you know, didn't quite turn out that way. In total, the family estimated that they must have put about $100,000 into this project, with hopes that it would change their lives. And it did, just not in the way that they were hoping it would. The family explained in their documentary Bankrupt by Beanie Babies, a very fitting title, that during the time that they were collecting Beanie Babies, they never actually sold any of them, mainly because they were holding out hope that they'd be worth money in the future. So instead of actually making any money out of their scheme, they just kept putting more and more and more into it, getting ever more in the hole, just hoping and praying that these Beanie Babies would be worth more money in the future. The father commented on this at the time and said the following: "I would get to know the shop owners, and since I bought 5 for my 5 children, I asked them to let me know when they got new Beanie Babies. Okay, get in the car, they've got Beanie Baby Bear number 62. So we'd all jump in and fly down there and jump in line." He didn't sound bitter in the slightest saying this, wearing his Bankrupt by Beanie Babies t-shirt, which is a nice touch. What he did normally was he'd buy 5 for each of his children, each as an investment. However, sometimes if there was particularly rare Beanie Babies, he would get multiple. And one in particular was Buddy the Bald Eagle, which was released for a single day. And he bought 50 of them. Yes, he has 50 bald eagles gathering dust in his closet, worth probably close to nothing, which is a sad state of affairs. The Robinsons even estimate that they must have between 15 to 20,000 Beanie Babies, and to keep track of them all, they even have an inventory list where they follow and keep a number of what they have, which I imagine at the time was probably a good idea when you were collecting them, but now this piece of paper is just a reminder of how much money you threw down the toilet. And yeah, I would not want to hold on to that. What I find absolutely crazy about this, however, is the fact that the family could have very well put that $100,000 into anything else and probably still kept the money and maybe put one or two of their kids through college, and now they have nothing. So it's pretty sad, and also a lesson to be learned for anybody that wanted to do something in the future. Just take this as an example and be noteworthy that something like this probably isn't a fantastic investment opportunity. Honestly, I think the biggest thing about this is the fact that everybody got swept up in the hysteria of Beanie Babies, and at the time, because it was so popular, people genuinely believed that these things would be worth a lot of money. And over time, I think it just comes to realization that you have to try and take a step back from these things sometimes and realize that there's probably more of a corporate agenda more than anything. So you got to be really careful about these sorts of things, especially when you decide to put your life savings into it. One thing I distinctly remember was whenever I got new Beanie Babies when I was young, my mum would always tell me to try and keep it in good condition because it may be worth money in the future. Of course, everybody was getting swept up in the same hype. And honestly, I didn't care. I played with them, I broke the tags, I got them into some right states. And to be honest, I'm glad I did, because I had a whale of a time. And if I held on to those Beanie Babies and didn't use them, they'd just be sat on my shelf gathering dust and not worth anything. So I'm glad that my kid instincts kicked in and I just had fun with them, which is how they should be. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas as to what videos you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Right, time to make a limited run of brain spill videos, and oh wait, we all know how that turned out. Crashing of the secondary market. Don't need any of that on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.